And that's it, right? Pod's over.
What the hell? 30-second countdown.
The whole pod, Adrian, is just videos that we put together. 5
I let
seconds
you
of
press the button once, and this is what happened.
Very impressive, very slick start to the show. I like
that.
that.
Well, that's as far as it goes, as far as that's concerned. So it's
all downhill from here.
It's another episode of What the Hell Hotel is Mike podcasting from this week.
Are you in a hotel again?
I am back in a hotel. We've been having work done in our house, coming to you live from the Courtyard by Marriott in Herndon, Virginia, because now they're painting, and a man needs to not be breathing in fumes. So we're actually moving our house to Islington. We're just having to move it bit by bit, you'd think that'd be easier. So tonight we are back with another Arsenal man who's taken his skills and experience on the pitch into an analyst role. Adrian, I have a little bit over the top introduction, so buckle in. He's a presenter. He's a writer. His tactical nous is unparalleled in the world. And yes, the world. I mean, it's a toss-up between him and some YouTuber that moved to Spain a couple years ago. He knows his way around tactical analysis to the same degree I know my way around a Baconator. He knows his way around tactical analysis almost as well as Andy knows his way around a manicure and pedicure parlor, which that's high praise. And welcome to the Gooners podcast for your maiden appearance, breaking your duck. Thank you for joining us, Adrian Clarke.
Yeah, very exciting. Yeah, glad to be along. Yeah, it's a very, very kind intro. I'll take that. I'm not sure I'm the best in the world, but I'll take it for now. Yeah, very kind.
Unparalleled in the world is what we're saying, and okay. To understand what that means, you have to know what paralleled means, and I don't. So, I was never much good in maths, but in any case, you're a busy guy.
$10 million is.
Well, yeah. I mean, I know how to take money out of people's accounts, but that's about it. You wear a lot of hats, and as a guy who really should be wearing a hat right now, I can respect that. So let's kind of go through your resume a bit, your CV, as it were. Mm-hmm. In the last week or so, you've posted game reviews for the Premier League's official website. Mm-hmm. You've written more content for the Premier League, including a Thomas Partey article that we are certainly going to dig into a little bit later in the show. Yeah. You're a staple of the Arsenal.com website, performing and administering in-depth reviews and previews of our favorite club that's called The BreakDown. And so we've titled this show The BreakDown. Hopefully it doesn't result in what Andy and I normally do, which is we just talk to each other about our lives and we just both break down. So tell us, I mean, you've done commentary on the Arsenal player for our League Cup games, our Premier League games. You've done the highly acclaimed Totally Football show for The Athletic, which I think is totally about football. How could you possibly have enough time to join us on this podcast?
Well, you asked very nicely, and that is the prerequisite, which is happy to join you. But yeah, you're right, I'm very busy, but that's kind of why I went into journalism. After football, I wanted to stay interested, stay involved, and to sort of talk and write about the game and to sort of analyze it and commentate on it, and it's just been such a fun ride, really. I've been doing it for quite a long time now. I had to retire a bit earlier than I wanted to in my early 30s, and prior to that I'd been semi-professional, combining a sort of part-time football career with writing, and it's just sort of snowballed from there. But yeah, I love the variety, love the work that Arsenal give me to do on the breakdown. It's been an absolute pleasure analysing the games. I mean, not every game, obviously.
Well, you got to take the good with the bad.
So, yeah, exactly. So I actually find some of the defeats, some of the poorer performances more interesting to go deep on. But I think that the biggest sort of plus for me doing the breakdown, as well as enjoying putting them together, is actually the feedback from the supporters. It's very, very kind, and a lot of people do seem to appreciate it. So the idea is to just give you the game in the tactical story of the game in a sort of 7-8 minute nutshell, and maybe just pick out some of the bits that you might have missed first time around. And yeah, I get so many lovely messages, and yeah, hopefully it'll continue for a bit longer.
It is fascinating because, I mean, I say every single show that I really don't understand the tactical side of football. I watch it. I know what I like to watch. I enjoy it. I support the club, but try to have me break down why we won a game or what. I mean, unless it's just really, really obvious, that's just not my game. And so having someone like yourself who is significantly more in tune with why certain things happen, why the team will perform better, and it's an honor to do, and that's one of the reasons why we're looking forward to talking about Thomas Partey, because he clearly brings something to the club, and we'll get to that. That changes the way that we'll play tactically. So well, given your expertise, we're just going to turn the show over to you, and you can just ask Andy and make questions. No, I'm just kidding. So let's talk about your career for a little bit.
Okay.
You have played, if I'm not mistaken, in all 6 of the top 6 levels of English football, which is not that common, I guess. Is that am I right about that? I mean, I know the name.
No, I don't think it's particularly common. I'm proud to have played at the top 6 levels of English football, but unfortunately, I did it in the reverse order. I think if somebody did it and they started in the National League South, which was the sort of lowest that I ended up.
It was like the anti-Vardy then.
Yeah, exactly.
Vardy.
Exactly. Well, yeah, Vardy did exactly the opposite, didn't he?
He
climbed the ladder. So it's not quite as special when you do it the other way around, when you go down that slippery slope. But I tell you what, all of it was enjoyable in a different way. I was at Arsenal from the age of 10 all the way through to, I think I was 22 when I left. So it's a long time, and I absolutely loved it. And had the opportunity to play 9 first-team games. Went on the tour to China and Hong Kong as well, which was great. And it was fantastic. But and you think it's going to last forever, but unfortunately, you have to be a really special player, I think, to stay at Arsenal in the long term. It's such a high standards there, and Arsene Wenger was going a different direction, and it was tough. So I had to make my way elsewhere, and it did. Yeah, there were some good times, some bad times, but ultimately I sort of I faced a crossroads when I left Southend United, and it's only 3 years after I'd left Arsenal. So I'm a pro at Arsenal. Life's good. I go to Southend and I play at first, and it goes really well. But then a new manager comes in, doesn't really like me. I certainly didn't like him. And
was that a new manager that because one of the things I found in researching your career a little bit further was in Southend. I think the first season you were there, or the first full season you were there, Ronnie Whelan was the manager, and apparently on his way out, he said that when he took the job, he had no idea how to be a manager.
Well, he was a real character. Yeah, I mean, he sold that. I went on loan to Southend from Arsenal initially, and he sold the vision of Southend United by asking me, "Do I like a drink?" And obviously, as a young professional, you're kind of like a little bit nervous of answering that question. I said, well, on a Saturday night after a game, I'll have a couple. You'll love it here. We got a cracking set of drinkers at the club. So
you're thinking Tuesday Club Part 2.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I'd been part of that group. Well, I was always on the edge of that group.
Andy got me to do the podcast the exact same way. He's like,
we're gonna have to send him a bottle of wine pre-pod every pod.
I love it. I was too goody to be part of the Tuesday Club at Arsenal. I was a bit young as well, and so I didn't really partake. Obviously, a few Christmas parties and a few nights out with the big boys, so to speak, and it was carnage really. So
you were the reverend, right?
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. You have done your research. Yeah, Ian Wright labelled me the reverend.
Nothing more than a Jewish guy likes to see in research than people called the reverend. So I mean,
I absolutely hated that as a sort of 20-year-old lad. Being labelled, basically he called me a reverend because he never heard me swear. He knew that I sort of did extra studies because I wanted to have a career after football, and I was sort of I wasn't really a womanizer or a boozer, so I was a bit of a goody two shoes in his eyes. So he was like, "You're like a reverend," and then
that's probably why the Arsenal thing didn't last. I mean,
I didn't fit in, did I? I didn't fit in at all. But so it stuck, and I bumped into Wrighty many years after I'd left Arsenal, and I hadn't seen him, and I was just making my way as a journalist at this point, and straight away he saw me in the distance. Clarke, no, he didn't say Clarke. He said, "Reverend, come here." So it was really, really, really nice. And now of course I'm lucky enough to, not right now because of the pandemic, but I get to see a lot of my former teammates. So many former Arsenal players have ended up going into the media. I think it speaks volumes really for I think the intelligence of the squads that George Graham built. The fact that he had so many people that really love the game, because I think if you go into something like this, you've really got to have a passion for it, and people that I guess can articulate their opinions quite well. So yeah, it's amazing. There's so many Gooners, on TV, on radio, and the newspapers. It's I get to bump into them at games, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I was going to make kind of a wisecrack about, hey, after your playing days, surprise, you went into the media. But I thought that might even that alone might be insulting, because I didn't want to make it seem like it was like a easy thing to do. But I was thinking more of what you just said, that Arsenal players seem to just be rife in the media, and successfully so as well, because of the intelligence factor.
Yeah, I think so. And it's working with George Graham and working with Arsene Wenger, two very different managers. Obviously Bruce Rioch in between, but very different managers, but managers that really sort of schooled and educated the players, I think, and that's obviously stayed with us. I mean, for the big hitters, it's easy to walk into the media, but for me, right. My first job, when I joined Stevenage in the National League, and I had to get a job to go alongside it, and I was a trainee news reporter, not sport, a trainee news reporter on a local paper. And look, they got me to do all of the rubbish jobs. I was having to stop people on the street and do surveys and political opinions and sometimes I had to go and knock on the door of families that had lost somebody in an accident. There was news. There was some really, really difficult moments, but it taught me how to write, how to be a journalist, and obviously since then I've got to specialise in what I do best, I guess, which is football.
Now, Dave, that's uncalled for. Stewart was our last guest on the pod. It was an absolute gentleman to us. And this is, by the way, pod number 2 of 2 in the series of Arsenal players whose career got ended short by pelvic injuries. October is pelvis month, and we're going with that theme here. So, David, you're David now. You're not David anymore.
Adrian, you got to kind of see it all playing at Highbury, and as we said, you went down to the lower leagues. What did you prefer in terms of like stadiums? Where did you prefer to play in, the large ones or the more intimate settings where you're so close to the fans? And I'm almost certain my uncle probably reffed you when you played for Stevenage, because he's been a ref in that league for 20 plus years. Yeah,
must have done. Yeah. I joined them in 2000. It was a good club, Stevenage. Really enjoyed it. Do you know what? I enjoyed playing in the Premier League with the Arsenal players, because the better the players you play with, the service you get is so much more immaculate. I was lucky enough to play with Bergkamp. To one side, I had Nigel Winterburn or Lee Dixon behind me. I mean, these guys just made life so much easier. I loved it. And also Premier League defenders, they weren't quite as rough. They weren't quite as physical. They wouldn't dive in as easily, and I was quite quite skinny winger at the time. So I found it more difficult playing in the lower leagues, where you get the ball up here and you get knocked around a bit more. But you adapt to that. In terms of the stadiums, I definitely was less nervous playing at Highbury than I was in the National League South, playing in front of 700 people. Yeah.
Really? Is that just because you were closer to them, or what was the reason?
I think it was a rush. I think it's an adrenaline rush and an excitement and just you dreamt about it since you were, since you could first kick a ball. You wanted to be out there on the pitch, and suddenly it's there and it's happening, and you're in the middle of a movie. That's what it sort of felt like at first, and it was so exciting, and I wasn't nervous, and it was bizarre. It was just a real sort of rush of excitement every time I played. Obviously, if you did something wrong and then you could hear the crowd, it can play on your mind. But as a footballer, you've got to sort of just put those to one side. And what I found really hard was, after playing for Arsenal's first team, I went back to reserve team football for a little while, when Arsene Wenger came. And obviously hardly anyone was watching those games, a few hundred inside Highbury, and you can hear everything. And I was much, much more nervous in those games than I had been in the first team. It's really weird, but yeah, the lower down you go, and I have to say, and obviously the English football pyramid is going through a difficult time at the moment financially, and you just hope that it'll survive. But it's brilliant. Even in Leagues 1 and League 2, cracking atmospheres, small stadiums, 5,000-6,000. It's great. Yeah,
that was what I was going to ask you. What kind of whether you get back to see lower league football, because one of the great things that came out of this podcast was about 3 years ago when we were drawn against Sutton United in the FA Cup. I think it was the 4th round, and I wasn't there at the time. But the very next, we had on bloggers from Sutton United. We had on Wayne Shaw, the goalkeeper, who's only slightly less heavy than I am, on the podcast. I mean, we really, and this was before the pie fiasco had happened.
Yeah.
And so we kind of developed an affinity for Sutton. And the next 3 times I went over, I made sure to catch a Sutton game at Gander Green Lane, and we got to meet the people. We actually took Wayne back to Sutton for the first time since he was sacked.
Right.
So it's like it's this little surreal thing, and I just love it there. I mean, I love the clubhouse, the bar, everyone knows everybody else, and the game is, I mean, it's better quality football than a lot of the MLS teams. I hate to say it, but
it's good standards. Yeah, it was even better actually a few years ago when a lot of the teams were part-time. When I first went into the National League, because you get so many really good footballers that had excellent jobs. They hadn't quite made it, so then they forged careers for themselves, and they were earning too much in their day job to give it up. And honestly, the standards in the National League was no different to League 2. I think these days, it's still a good standard, a lot of good technique, but there's a lot of younger players.
Craig Eastman, former Arsenal player, Craig Eastman plays and has for years at Sutton, and he comes into the bar after the game with the rest of the boys, and
it's brilliant.
Good conversations with him, and it's just it's neat.
It's more fun in a way. It's more fun because, I mean, I wish I'd enjoyed my time at Arsenal more, really, because you spend a lot of your time sort of on edge a little bit, looking to, that you've got to perform to stay where you are. And there's a lot of expectation there. Wish I'd sort of enjoyed it more. But when I went down the pyramid, it was a bit more relaxed. And I loved the interaction that you got to have with the supporters. You just see the same faces, every week. And you'd always go in the pub, in the bar, or the clubhouse for a pint afterwards. It was a real sort of family spirit, and I miss that actually. I miss that about playing football more maybe than the playing itself, the social side of it. So and that the social side of it was definitely better the lower down that you went. But it's a lot to be said about lower league football. And look, in the Premier League, in the England team at the moment, most of them have had experiences playing for pretty small clubs somewhere along the way. So we can't let these teams and these clubs die. And you would think that, most of the people who go to these lower league games, they have a local team and then they've got their Premier League team. Not always. There's plenty of Sutton United supporters who are just Sutton United supporters. That's all they care about. They couldn't give 2 shits about Arsenal or Spurs.
Well, and it's also interesting, you mentioned the players, but the coaching staff as well. If you look at the amount of coaches in the Premier League today that started off in these lower EFL teams and below, I mean, that's why they can't die, because the infrastructure really builds up the programs we have today. Speaking of England, Steve has a question I'm going to throw in really quick.
Yeah.
It looks Ainsley is starting for England today. Here's the question. Yeah, Mainsley. Does being able to play in various positions as he does help or hinder a player's options for starting places?
I think it helps. I do think it helps because it gives you more opportunities to obviously slot in when there's an injury or a loss of form. In Ainsley's case, I think that initially it was a hindrance because he was a midfielder. He wanted to be a midfielder, but in my opinion, the quality of central midfielders at Arsenal was a little bit too high for him to really make an impact in that position. He only had a handful of chances. I don't think he really grasped those chances in central midfield. So he was lucky in the sense that the coaches thought, well, he could do a job at fullback or at wing back. And of course, he's also lucky that he was given an opportunity on the left-hand side when some coaches wouldn't have even contemplated it because he's right-footed. And of course, he proved that he's a very, very adaptable player. And for me, Ainsley wouldn't be in the England squad if he hadn't been used as a left wing back. It's as simple as that. He just wouldn't. England are stocked with thousands of great right backs. So I think he would be quite far down the pecking order there.
I think they all played last week at the same time.
Exactly, which is just bonkers, wasn't it? But we don't have so many on the left, and what I love about Ainsley is he's so tactically flexible. He's really bright. I mean, what I didn't like about him initially, and I was worried about, was he was too laid back. I thought he's so chilled out. We see that with his penalties, of course. And I was wondering, would he ever maximise his potential because he's so relaxed? But actually, I think he's proven me wrong on that score, and he's also far more tactically bright than I gave him credit for. The way he slots between central midfield when we pass out from the back, to going back to left wing back, to then switching to the other side when necessary, is really impressive. And he makes it look much, much easier than it is.
Absolutely.
Let's give a shout out to some people in the chat. We've got Mohammed, Owen, of course, Matt D'Souza, Steve. We have David Ziegler. I'm not giving him David after he insulted Stewart Robson. Joe Q from Oklahoma City's in the house. Of course, Mikey Hers, the real Giannis. Andy, did you realize that your basketballing hero is in the chat right now?
I didn't. We got Vivek.
And Kerry McCollum, of course, long time. So good to see you guys in here again.
Very quickly on Stewart Robson. Look, I got to know him a little bit down the years. We don't bump into each other too often, but he's a nice guy, and I know he gets a lot of flack. I think what happened was that he was not an Arsene Wenger fan, right. And I think that he unfortunately probably spoke a little bit too forcefully against Arsene Wenger, and when he was doing the job that he was doing for Arsenal media, that wasn't the brightest idea, was it? But he's a very good analyst.
And you succeeded him in that job in a way, right? I mean, is there
absolutely no? Well, he did a tactics segment before,
which is the bizarre thing about having him on 2 weeks ago and then you on today in our next show. Because I mean, it's literally we're following the template there. But
brilliant, yeah.
I mean, we in having Stewart on, we did a lot of research as we often do, and I know he's controversial. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but he was a perfect gentleman to us. He
absolutely
very, very candid, and candid is a double-edged sword sometimes. But we appreciate it. So.
And it depends on who you talk to, but he's controversial. But I do think that he's not controversial to be controversial for the sake of being controversial. Like he does form his opinion and he sticks with it and he backs it up. And he was one of the first people to say Arsene's letting the game pass him by. And that at the time just wasn't a popular opinion. Hindsight, a lot of people jumped on that bandwagon a few years after. And so fair play to him because he stuck with it. And as Adrian just said, maybe not the best platform to do it on.
Well, he would do the criticism on radio here in the UK or wherever, and people would pick up on it. Look, I work for Arsenal, but I'm honest, and when the team play poorly, I have to say it how it is. But I always make sure that my criticism is constructive and sort of balanced. That's I think when you work for a club, that's the only way you can really do it. Stewart probably just overstepped the line, I guess, in terms of some of the criticism. But he's an exceptional analyst. I think he's a very, very good. He's got a very good footballing brain.
So
Sorry, I was going to read off Kerry's comment. If you're listening to this on YouTube, Kerry just wants to give you a big thanks, Adrian, for your analysis. Getting detail right in the middle of a match is great work, and loves your analysis with Roebuck's commentaries.
Brilliant. Thanks, Kerry. That's much appreciated. Yeah, because that's something new that we've had during the sort of lockdown period. The breakdown live. So the match day offering now is sort of more tactical. It's more, we do a big build up to to each game for sort of half an hour, where we go through a lot of the stats and things to look out for, and then myself and Dan commentating during the game. So I absolutely love it. There's a great team at Arsenal. They're all really, really nice people and some excellent people in the media group.
So going back to your career at Arsenal, you were kind of there between two eras, right? You were there and sharing a dressing room with Seaman, Dixon, Adams, Wrighty. And then by the time you'd left, you were introduced to the likes of Bergkamp, Arsene. What did you take from those encounters? Were they any of those players that you had a real connection with? I mean, it had to have been completely two different parallel moments, right?
Yeah, it was different. Yeah, it was a big difference when Arsene Wenger came in. That's for sure. Complete culture shift. And you've read all about that. But yeah, no, I mean, the established players, the guys that you mentioned, the famous back five, all very, very helpful to younger players, and they toughened you up as well. There was no hiding place for a youngster coming into the first team. Yes, they would look after you to some degree, but also they knew how good you could be because you'd get to train with them quite regularly, and they'd see and hear of you. So they would push and push and push you, and it helped make us all better players. I think with Dennis Bergkamp, it was fantastic because he was really humble. I just couldn't believe it because he was such a superstar. I was a bit, I couldn't believe that we were signing Dennis Bergkamp at the time. It was amazing. And yet there he was sort of, sitting next to me having his dinner after training and chatting about normal stuff. And it was great. And I loved it. And I remember, I'll never forget, I think he invited me to his daughter's christening and stuff like that. Great. And yeah, like he included me and a lot of the young guys. So I bonded with Dennis. David Platt was very friendly to me. He
came in the same time, I think.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he was really friendly. But John Hartson was my age, so we sort of struck up a bit of a friendship. And but all of the guys. I mean, Wrighty was brilliant. I mean, he'd often sit next to me on coach trips just to try and tease me and wind me up for hours on end.
I could see him. Wrighty and the Reverend. That should be that could have been a podcast if that.
I love it. Yeah. And I've got to do bits and pieces of work with Wrighty in recent times, and it's just so much fun. So yeah, it's one of those things. At the time, you just take it for granted, and you think this is normal. It's only afterwards you realise that what you miss really, and yeah, they were golden times. They really were. I just wish I'd been a little bit more relaxed and sort of rolled with it.
I remember a few years ago, I read an article where they interviewed some of the best football players in the world to give their top 5 players, and there was one consistent, like I think even Pele put Bergkamp into that top 5 list. When you're sitting there and you're like, training with him, and you said like in the moment, do you see that? Is it one of those where, because everyone who says that, if they say who's the best player you've ever trained with, Bergkamp's always on their top of their list. Did you notice that at the time? Did you kind of feel that at the time?
I think everyone did, yeah, because I'm not saying we were lazy in training, because we weren't, but you'd work hard, especially under George Graham. You'd have to work hard, but you'd also have a bit of downtime, and people would mess around a bit. But Dennis was he's just so professional and serious about his work and immaculate. That's obviously the word that's associated with him the most. But he really was. Everything that he did, from the warm up to stretches to all the drills and practices, he did it to the best of his ability. And I do think that rubbed off on other people. They thought, well, if he can do it, then we should be doing it. And yeah, I mean, he stood out like a sore thumb. Almost every day, he'd chip one into the top corner, and everyone would just start clapping and say, "Stop it, Dennis! It's getting ridiculous." Give someone else a chance. It was he was
not funny anymore.
Yeah, he was even better in training than he was in games. And the thing about him was his touch and his awareness. He would kill a ball stone dead, and then he'd flick it out wide, and it'd be into the path of a winger like myself. And it was just, you didn't. I think I did realise how lucky I was at the time, but it's only when you end up playing in League Two with not quite the same calibre of players, a couple of years later,
you end up playing with Rupert Bergkamp.
Exactly, it's almost like a different sport. So yeah, but I just consider myself very fortunate. I think I could have, done a few things to stick around longer and to have a career at a higher level for a longer period. So I have 1 or 2 regrets myself, but for my time at Arsenal, it's just, I just feel privileged to have had the chance.
Well, that's great. And we have been seeing so many really good questions coming in. So here's what we're going to do. We've got about 30 minutes left. We're going to briefly touch on Gooners versus Cancer, which is wrapping up tomorrow. So I really want to touch on that. And then we're going to talk about some current events and get to some user questions. The one thing the one last thing I have to ask you about your Arsenal media obligations, it's incredible content. Sometimes you're pitch side, sometimes you're sitting in the stands looking all relaxed. Sometimes you're in the dressing room, you're in these other rooms that like overlook the pitch. Do you I obsess over the wrong thing all the time. So it's, I'm sure you're giving great technical analysis. I'll trust that. I'm just focused on where you're sitting. And do you decide, are you like, okay, I want to do this from the dressing room today, or I'm going to do this from the manager's seat, or do they just basically tell you, here's where you're going to be?
We just like to mix it up, I think. Yeah, basically there's a camera guy.
And control over this.
Well, sort of. We do it between us. There's normally three of us. There's a sort of a producer, the cameraman, and myself. But yeah, so I produce all the content, give the club all the clips, and I write the script, and everything's mine. And they don't tell me what to write. Basically,
so it's all to the Emirates. Like, could you just get it in the middle of the night if you want?
I do have a pass. Yeah, I do have a pass, but I don't think they'd just let me in. I think there's always someone on the door.
They look through their little doorbell, like Adrian's here.
No, well, I often did. If there was a game the night before that I was at, I'd stay over in London and rock up, and I would compile the breakdown in the press room, in the media room, and I would sometimes turn up at 6:30 in the morning. So you laugh about that, but sometimes it's just been me and the cleaner in there as I'm putting the breakdown together. So that's quite fun.
There's actually a commercial for American football. It's not for American football. I forget what it's for, but there's a quarterback for the Cleveland Browns who they pretend that he lives in the stadium and he's taking care of it like it's his house. Baker Mayfield is his name, and he's like, he's got book club in the seats. He's and he wants to cover all the seats. So that's what I'm picturing you as.
Yeah,
right now.
They've not let me sleep there. Yeah,
I think that we need to start a campaign to get him doing a tactical breakdown from the nice big hot tubs or cold tubs they have in the dressing room.
Yeah, they're very nice. I've suggested it, but yeah, no one wants to see me in my swimming trunks was the shout, which is probably fair. So
I think it'd just be all the more better if you do it in a suit or whatever you're wearing, just in the water, and people will be like, "What's he doing?"
Well, I'll let you into a secret. Sometimes it gets so noisy because of that pool is where we have to get someone to turn it off. And when I'm in the bowl in the stadium itself, quite often we do it early in the morning, and the cleaners are there and they've got the blowers on. And we literally have to scream at this group of people in the stands, "Shut up! Be quiet! Can you just have a tea break or something like that?" And they let us have a tea break. They'll sit there, have a cup of tea, and wait for us to finish doing the filming. So it's good fun, and it's really uneventful.
Now listen, there are bigger Arsenal podcasts, but you're not going to get this kind of insight from inside the Emirates as you do on the Gooners podcast. So a little self-promotion there. So a little bit more self-promotion, not for myself, but we are Adrian. I want to thank you for the comments that you've made in our chatting online and for helping us on social media with this. But if you're new to the podcast and haven't been following, we are right at the end in the last 24 hours of a 2-month campaign for the 2020 Gooners versus Cancer, raising money for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And I got a little emotional when I was putting some thoughts together last night because 2020 has not been an easy year for anybody. And last year we took this charitable effort wide. We took it on tour. Arsenal visited the States in July, went to 4 different cities, did live fundraising in all those cities. It's easy for people to see the sign, to drop by, take a $20 bill out of their pocket and throw it into a raffle. And we got a lot of people who did that. And we raised over $16,000 for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society last year. And, this year with coronavirus, with people suffering financially, physically, emotionally, I just didn't see how it was possible that we would come close.
We didn't have Ray Parler in a pub yelling at people to donate.
Yeah, we didn't have that. We didn't have me in a pub yelling at people to donate, taking my shirt off and stuff. But even without all that, we are currently at $17,522 raised. We've got a goal of $2,200 because why not? It's 2020, and about maybe 30 hours left to go, and I'm just blown away. So I just wanted to thank again. We've got 350 people who have donated from 22 different countries in 5 different continents. South America, get with it, please. But 22 countries all over the world. It's really been amazing. So many nice comments from people. And here's the thing: if you haven't donated yet, it is an online raffle, and basically you donate directly to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. It's a charitable donation. You can get a tax deduction if you're in an area that supports that. You buy raffle tickets, and you can put in a bid for any of 11 different prizes, ranging from self-guided audio tours of the Emirates. You can, along with that, is you get to go in at 6 o'clock in the morning with Adrian, and he'll show you around. Speaking of tours, we've got the Perry Groves experience, which comes with a legend tour with Perry Groves.
Perry's brilliant, by the way. Great person. Yeah, he's wonderful.
We did a tour with him in March, the day before they shut everything down for coronavirus, actually. And the stories he tells is amazing. And if you think that the stories he tells in the tour are amazing, win this item, because after the tour that you take with him, he's going to sign a kit for you and go out for beers with you. And that's some face time at a pub that you don't normally get with your Arsenal legends. So signed kits from Lee Dixon. From Alan Smith, we've got this great 89 tee that Stephen Feely from feestees.me has put out. There's been some bids on that. Here's the signed shirt from Alan Smith, and Lee and Alan Smith will sign essentially what you want them to sign. So if it's thanks for the support, or if it's it's up for grabs now, whatever the case may be, you can let us know that. There's 2 amazing Arsenal game tickets in Block 32 right next to the entrance tunnel. It's an amazing view, which you can see in that picture. I'm not sure how easy it is to see now, but
yeah, I've sat there. Very good view.
Yeah, it's right next to the press box, actually. You look to your right.
Right in front of it, yeah.
You can see these guys. We've got a brand new personalized kit of your choice, any of the 3, even though 2 are shown here. And that was donated by Mike, hers in our chat. That was very generous, and it's gotten a lot of bids. We've got a first team signed kit donated by Arsenal with the entire first team signatures on there. We've got one signed copy of Arsene Wenger's new autobiography, which has been in the news a little bit lately. And he's gonna sign that, and that'll go to a lucky winner. And last but not least, we have a signed kit by Mesut Ozil from the 2018-19 season, and a women's team signed kit, which is the newest entry. Was just added about a week or 2 ago, and has gotten a lot of attention, a lot of bids, and it's not too late to sign up. So just go to goonersvcancer.com. We've got 24 hours left. We'd love to hit the goal of 20,000. And I just, I can't thank people enough for the time, the effort, the generosity, and the ideas that they've come up with to help raise more money on their, than they would on their own. And Adrian, thank you for that, for your part in that as well.
Oh, that's all right. No, that's nothing. But yeah, no, it's a great cause, and some wonderful prizes there. So yeah, well done, guys. I'll 24 hours. Right, I'm going to get straight on it after the show. I think. yeah. There's 1 or 2 of those that I found. Wouldn't mind an Arsene Wenger signed book. That's for sure. That looks good. And on the Arsenal women,
we'll see if he can sign. I'm sorry I didn't keep you around longer.
There's no hard feelings. He signed Mark Overmars in my place. I could hardly complain about that, could I? But on the Arsenal women, I've just done a breakdown. I think it's gone up on Arsenal's website today. So done a breakdown of their season so far. Let me tell you, there are some great pieces of football in this breakdown to enjoy. So there's some quality players.
And the interest in that shirt. I mean, everyone that donated before we put that shirt on has gotten correspondence that if they want to change their tickets, they can, because I don't want people to be penalized for donating early. But the amount of attention it's gotten has been wonderful. It's a really popular item. Steve has said near Alan Davies, and I know what he means. Block 32 is near Alan Davies, and I think I've told the story on the podcast before that when I sat in those seats for the Liverpool game. At halftime, I was right next to Alan Davies in the men's room, and I did have a peek, which is why he'll probably never come on the podcast. That's one of many reasons he'll never come on the podcast. But feedback, that's very generous. We're stopping to add another item to the.
If we can have it for next year.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of. that helps us. People who want to, it's one thing to give money; it's very generous. Another thing to give items that can be used in the auction and the raffle, because that's really what garners the interest. So thank you again for everybody for participating.
Vivek, we'll connect with you soon, and we'll figure out a way to do it for next season's raffle.
Sure. And we're going to do the live drawing of all the. We've got everything set up to do the live drawing for all of the prizes. We're going to do it in a live podcast next Monday night. So stay tuned to our Twitter, either at the Gooners Pod or at Gooners v Cancer, to see exactly when that's going to be. But we're going to do that next Monday, I think. So, so that's it for that. It's party time. Partey.
Yeah. So, Adrian, you just recently stated on PremierLeague.com that his skills remind you of a Patrick Vieira, and I think we could just listen to you on repeat saying that for 20 minutes. Tell us how you think Partey's going to fit into Arteta's side, and who will likely make way. How do you think we're going to set up? And my own personal nervousness with this is we've heard so many times this is the next Patrick Vieira, whether it be Xhaka, which was completely out of that should never have been partnered, right? And then Lucas Torreira. So tell us a little bit about how you think he's going to fit in.
They're individual players. You can't pigeonhole him as a Patrick Vieira Mark II. I wasn't saying that. They chose one line out of the piece to go with the headline, and that's the way it works in the media. But the reason I compared him to Vieira is because he's an all-round midfielder, a really strong, muscular presence in there that gets around the pitch and does the dirty work, that can break up play better probably than anyone else that we have at the moment. Someone that's tactically intelligent. By that, I'm saying, without the ball, he knows the positions to take up. He's got discipline in possession. He's quite clever, and he will find space to receive passes and then to shift it on, like Patrick Vieira did all those years ago, getting them off the back four, playing a forward pass into the forwards. And also, he's someone that can dribble with it. He's someone that can surge past opponents down the spine of the pitch. And I do think that we've missed that kind of player, really. Someone, at the moment, we've got El Neni, Xhaka, Ceballos, all good passers, technicians, better. Yeah, but none of them are athletic. None of them are particularly powerful. And they don't have that surge in them where they can break the lines with a run. And Patrick did it brilliantly. And Thomas Partey has that in his armory as well. I just think he's a really dynamic all-round player. Yeah.
And seeing the video of him, because obviously we signed him and then he went on his international duty, but seeing the video of him, seeing the shirt for the first time was pretty neat because, Atletico's a big club, but I think Arsenal is just that next notch, right? And it just looks so cool for him to, I think, fully realize, oh shit, this is the real deal now, And so it's going to be exciting.
Either that or it's a propaganda video. I mean,
do you think he starts against City, or do you think we give him the time to just embed himself?
I'd start him. Yeah, I mean, if he's fit, if he's just played for Ghana, hasn't he? If he's fit to go, then why mess around? I mean, Manchester City is a tough enough game as it is. I think it's one of the toughest fixtures in the calendar. We know that. If we were to get anything out of it, it would be pleasing. So in a sense, I'm not saying expectations are low because we're capable of beating City. We showed that at Wembley, but it's a game where we can try something, I think, and if we get beaten, so be it. So no, I think get him in there. How we'll line up is I don't know. I mean, it's going to be fascinating. I think
if Tierney can't play, I'd like to put Partey at left back. We'll just start him there. If Tierney if we can't get an exception of his isolation.
Have they given any updates on that yet?
Not a good one, I don't think.
It's all gone very quiet, hasn't it? I mean, we could do with Kieran Tierney being available. Look, a flat back four isn't beyond the realms of possibility. I do feel that moving forwards, Arteta wants to go to four at the back, and to get an extra attacking player on the pitch. And I think that Partey's acquisition will help us in that regard. At the moment, we know the weakness is without the ball. We know we're not great at creating chances as well. So the priority has been, let's be disciplined, let's get the tactical structure right, and then I think phase two and Partey helps here because he's a really solid, reliable defensive player. Maybe Arteta will trust him to provide protection to a back four with, say, Xhaka or Ceballos next to him, and then we can get the 4 attacking midfield players or 4 forward options in front of those 2. I think that would be really, really nice because at the moment, as you've all seen, it doesn't take a rocket scientist or an expert analyst to see that Arsenal are too reliant on Aubameyang, Lacazette, and Willian or Pepe just coming up with something at the moment. We need an extra creative player in the team. We need to find a way to get Saka in there. I think we need to give Pepe a run of games, and to do that, we probably have to sacrifice a third central defender, and Partey sitting in front of a back 2 might just give us Arteta the assurance to do it.
And we need the odd goal from a fullback too. I mean, we don't get those like a lot of teams do. I mean, whether it's a wing back or a fullback, they all seem to be coming from our forwards, which is obviously why we're so dependent on them. Joe Pugh says Saka left back. I mean, 2 things about that. One is, I mean, if we do play in a 4, I mean, anyone but Kolasinac at this point, honestly, if it has to be Saka, that's fine. The second thing is, do you remember, Andy, Joe won the prize that we gave away last year in Denver when Ray Parler helped us pick the winner?
Yeah.
He's let himself go. I mean, he was clean shaven, like perfectly clean shaven when we were doing that. And I don't think maybe he hasn't shaved since he met us. That's the whole strategy there.
I think you've already used that joke. Since we are a man of the people, I do want to just call out this. Danny, our friends from over at the Bergkamp Wonderland, had his tooth out, and Adrian, he didn't cry, so he's wondering if you would give him a virtual hug and tell him how brave he is.
Of course, you're very, very brave, Danny. What?
It's got to be a lot bigger than that.
Have I got to go bigger? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Bring it in, Danny. Yeah. Proud of you. Well played.
It doesn't mean that he had his tooth pulled. It just meant that he just took it. I mean, he takes it out and puts it in all the time. So.
Okay. Very nice.
I do like it. It does seem though with Partey, whenever we sign somebody, it's like weeks before we get to see them play. He's either like an international break, or it's during the summer, or like
they have a broken back.
Broken back is exactly what I was going to say. One of those type of deals.
Look, let's not heap too much on him straight away. I think it's a new league. He's not played in the Premier League. It's a new city, new teammates, new tactical ideas. Simeone and Mikel Arteta, 2 very different coaches. So it's going to be an adaptation process. Not everything's going to go to plan, but look, I think he's a good acquisition, very good acquisition.
Well, if you pay attention to Twitter, Gooners have had priapism now for 2 weeks over this guy, and I mean priapism. Look it up. I'm a doctor. Want to go to Owen's question?
Yeah, Owen Young, our friend from Northern Ireland, asks, how does Adrian compare the current atmosphere around the club to the years past?
Wow. I mean, I don't get to spend very much time at London Colney. Do the odd shoot there and stuff, but obviously I work closely with full-time members of staff, and I think the vibes are that the training ground is a significantly happier place right now under the Arteta regime than it was under Unai Emery, and that's not just down to Unai, but in general the atmosphere has been lifted. I think Arteta has galvanised the group. He's brought back some of the sort of family values, and everyone's a bit more together now and on the same page. And I get and at games, obviously I haven't been at a game for a long time now. I think March, West Ham United, I was on the gantry, not been back since.
That was the last game.
Yeah, can't believe it. I mean, it's just crazy, isn't it? You just never would have thought we'd have not been at games for this period of time. But again, since Arteta came in, the fans are behind the team.
Ozil got the game-winning assist in that game, believe it or not. Was that the one he headed it to Lacazette for a goal?
That's it. Yeah. It was a sort of scrappy goal. Yeah, very scrappy goal, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. We sort of stole those 3 points.
Right. Kamalesh, thank you for your question. I think Adrian kind of got to this, but I want to throw it up on screen just to say thanks for being here, and we appreciate it. Matt D'Souza asks, personally, have you ever screwed up with a teammate or manager? And you don't have to tell us a serious one if there's a fun one.
I got punched by a teammate. Yeah, in non-league, in training. Believe it or not. I think my team were winning the five-a-side, and I might have nutmegged him or something. I was doing something to maybe wind him up, and it touched a nerve. And yeah, the guy just saw the red mist and clocked me, which was unusual. I mean, I've seen a lot of fights on training grounds at Arsenal. I mean, Martin Keown got in a few. Ian Wright got in one or two. Yeah, Ian Wright got in one or two. Paul Dickov was a fiery character. Yeah. Guys like that. But I mean,
you know why you don't mess with Paul Dickov?
Because he'll rip your dick off.
Well, he's Scottish, and there's no rules in a fight with a Scotsman. So yeah, you wouldn't want to mess with Dickie. But did I square up to a manager? I mean, I answered the manager back. I had arguments with managers. Yes, not any Arsenal managers though. I was too young and respectful to do that. But yeah, look, it's as part of. It's being a footballer. You have flare-ups with teammates, with managers. It happens, but you've got to be bigger than that, and you've got to be able to sort of shake hands at the end of it and move on.
We've seen that recently with what was it, Ceballos and
it's nothing. Honestly, it's nothing. And obviously people got to see that, so it's a bit embarrassing. But honestly, those two will be fine. Yeah, it's no biggie. Yeah.
We have so many good questions. I just want to say we were going to talk about the international break during COVID, Project Big Picture, which is now dead, and Mikel Arteta. But I just want to make sure we get to as many user questions.
No problem at all.
I do like this one because I just, curiosity. It's will Partey signing help us bring Ozil back into the lineup, or has there been too much damage? And considering we've seen him dropped from certain squads, what are your thoughts here?
Well, I mean, yeah, look, if he's not in the squad, he can't play, can he? Unfortunately. I mean, my view on this was quite simple, that I think Arteta and the club put a line in the sand and they decided who they wanted to make available for transfer and who they wanted to keep, and they separated those groups pre-transfer window. That's why we didn't see Guendouzi, Torreira and Ozil featuring at all. Now they've got that awkward situation where what do you do? And I think you would have to have that conversation, certainly bring him back into the fold and allow him to train with the team. If he's available to play, absolutely. I think that why not? Granit Xhaka we all thought he might have played his last game and there was redemption there. Personally, I still feel that Ozil's best years are behind him and that we probably need to move on from him. So I don't see him necessarily as a nailed on starter. But look, if he's fit and available and he's willing to meet Arteta's tactical demands and he's playing well enough and training well enough to be involved, then I think it would be crazy, just to leave him at home. So look, let's see how it pans out. They're all grown ups. I just hope that they can. Everyone can just act properly and not just because I've seen some in the past clubs have ostracized players and things can get a little bit nasty and players will obviously react badly to that. I hope it can all be done amicably, but hand on heart, I don't see him being involved very often this season. What I think Partey's signing will give us is maybe the chance to play Aubameyang, Pepe and Willian together in a team, and maybe even with Lacazette up front, and I think that's exciting.
I mean, I just think contract extension. I mean, that's all I can think of right now for Ozil. Speaking of guys who do the job well, Kevin Campbell is in the house. Great to see you, Kevin.
I love it.
Hey, Kevin.
Yeah, we love it. I love Big KC. Yeah, it was great memories. I was there a few years. I was probably a youth team player when Kev was starring in the first team. But my first game actually for Arsenal against QPR, I came off the bench. Kevin was playing. Nice. So yeah, he's a great lad. Always smiling, Kevin.
And someone in the I think it was Danny said that that game, we know that game was special for John Jensen. But you came in off the bench for former Gooners podcast guest Alan Smith, I believe, right?
Yeah, Smudger. Yeah. I think Kev was on the left, and I came on for Smudger, and Kev went up top for the last few minutes. It didn't work out well because QPR scored the winner, so it all went a bit Pete Tong. But we don't want to reflect on that. Yeah, we don't want to dwell on that for too long. Yeah.
Matt D'Souza asks, what do you make of the Saliba situation? There was just so much hype for him going into the season.
Yeah, look, I was excited to see him, and given that I think central defence isn't our strong suit, and his qualities, he's athletic, he's a bit quicker probably than some of our other options, good on the ball. I was excited to see him, but I can only say that Arteta has obviously been worried about some of the deficiencies in his game that he's seen in practice games and friendlies and training sessions where he just doesn't feel that he's ready. So it'll be fascinating to see if he does go on loan or if he stays. I keep reading conflicting reports. If he stays, I would love to see him be part of this Europa League squad and obviously the Carabao Cup as well. Give him a chance. I mean, he was playing League One football last season. He was getting good reviews. He had, I think when he was fit to play, he did pretty well. So I think he's good enough to feature for us in those games if he does stick around. So it's just one of those. We're going to have to be patient, I guess, to see him as a regular in the first team.
Yeah.
Now you've gone and given Danny a hug, and now he's going to bring this up. Adrian came on in the 75th minute. 76th and 77th minute. Come on, Danny.
Yeah, that's harsh.
What? If you don't have something nice to say, you don't say anything at all.
You can take back the hug.
Yeah, I gave her a virtual hug and everything, didn't I? How do I rewind it? Yeah. Well, my full debut was much more successful against QPR the following Boxing Day. Yeah, we won 3-0, and that did go well. We played really well, and I think I got the man of the match in some of the reports after the game. So yeah, that was a beautiful moment. Yeah,
that's absolutely great. I have another question from Mike in a hotel in Virginia. You love your left-footed players, don't you? Arsenal's got a lot of them, so you must be happy. I mean, we got Kolasinac, Xhaka, Pablo Mari, Tierney, Saka, Gabriel. I think if Ozil still has feet, I think he's left-footed. And then, of course, Pepe could have his right foot amputated, and you wouldn't notice a drop in play whatsoever.
No.
Is this heaven for you? Or
I love it. Yeah, no, I do because
anti-England.
Yeah, the anti-England. Yeah, there's not many lefties in the England squad at the moment. No, I'm part of the left-footers union, but I genuinely think it improves the flow of a team, any team. Yeah. I mean, anyone that watches England with 11 right-footers stopping and checking and going square, they're just not. I mean, first of all, it amazes me that professional footballers that get to play for the senior national team aren't comfortable enough to use both feet. I just find it bonkers, really. And it's a flaw, I think, in the way that we coach players. It should be a prerequisite that players are taught to use both feet from a young age. We start them young enough, don't we, in the academies? But no, in terms of the balance of the team, it just helps us move the ball quicker and more confidently from side to side. And I think that's an underappreciated value that a lot of managers ignore. Quite frankly, but clearly not Mikel Arteta.
When Andy was a goalkeeper, he was right-handed. So, like what I found when we did last year, we did a charity shootout, which of course I won, even though I'm 400 stone. All I had to do was shoot it to his left because he had no left hand. It was just he's so one-handed as a goalkeeper, and I think that's.
I also technically didn't have a right knee.
Well,
as later found out in the MRIs.
The MRI
then fixed later with surgery.
The cruciate injury happened because of your feeble attempts at saving my penalties. So I think we have to.
But I tell you what, on the lefties, Tierney's got a great left foot, and Gabriel looks confident with it. But I mean Saka, his end product is absolutely brilliant, isn't it? I mean, I love the potential of the player because at such a young age to be so calm in those big moments just shows how what a great temperament he's got and technique. So yeah, look, we've got a real gem on our hands with Bukayo Saka, that's for sure.
Speaking of end product, I was just going to wrap it up with the Patreon, Andy, but you got something else you want?
Great. No. That was This is the first time, Mike, I think you've ever segued that well before, and then I ruined it.
Well, I'm not known for my segues, although I keep trying. Now that did not work. Hold on just a second. You're seeing like the inside of my computer, I think.
Two things that are ruined today: your segue and Danny's virtual hug.
Exactly. So yes, we wanted to mention the Patreon, especially during Gooners versus Cancer, because we're giving 1% of every membership to Gooners versus Cancer. Andy, you want to explain to Adrian kind of how we got started on this?
It's just surprising to me that no one signed up for such great value.
I was just thinking, do I need to put my glasses on here, or am I reading that correctly?
Decimal points in the right. Yeah,
he's looking for the dollar sign, like to be one of those like those currencies that look like a dollar sign, but they're
Like all I need to say on this Patreon page is for $10,000 a month, we will text you when the final score is complete for any Arsenal match, whether you're watching it or you're not. We'll text you what the final score was. That's value for money.
You will never not know what the final score of the Arsenal game is. And the other text that you'll get is the late night texts every once in a while, because I'm up at all crazy hours at night, and I will text you up, just to, because what I'm going to want to know is whether you're up or not.
That's the only text you'll get.
Yeah, and you're allowed to listen to or watch our podcast. We'll give you compliments, monthly signed 8x10 photos. Actually, there may be some other late night texts, so you need to be 18 or over and hot in order to be eligible for that. But and then the exclusive T-shirt that you see the person wearing there, which I wish I could zoom in on. I don't know if I can or not, but it is basically a hand-drawn the Gooners podcast logo, which is the merch that we're offering. You can't get
a good 15 minutes to make.
Yeah. So
send me the form and I'll fill it out after the show. Yeah, it sounds like a bargain.
The form is actually gold encrusted and with diamonds, and you have to mail. We pay the return postage, but only once the check clears. Yeah. So
it's very heavy.
Danny is our one patron. Is that what it is? We don't even know what it's called because no one signed up. I don't know why.
But that was our joke at other people who have a Patreon for their podcast.
There are many people who have Patreon that should have Patreon, and they do, and it's reasonably priced. There are others who have Patreon and sell merch who should have a look at themselves in the mirror. Andy, I don't think you swore you would never admit that was a joke. You're like, you have to have a straight face when we go over that on the podcast. It's not to be. Don't ruin it. Well, Adrian, you've said it all. You've said too much. I appreciate you've gone over everything. We appreciate it. We've kept it close to an hour, and I just can't tell you how much I appreciate. Again, not only joining us and having a nice, relaxed conversation today. Hopefully, it was a little different from the same old type of. Well, I don't mean. Yeah. The podcast same old. I mean, just the typical tactics talk, and the support and feedback that we've gotten for Gooners versus Cancer, and again we retweeting and helping to share that to a new audience who might not otherwise have found out about it is an incredibly helpful gesture, and we appreciate.
Thank you.
No, not a problem at all. Yeah, no, thanks for having me on the show. It's been good fun. And I should say
that with a straight face.
I should be a viewer moving forwards. Let me know when you do these, and I'll
would love to have you back.
Yeah, we had requests in the chat to have you back, around January time when the next transfer window is open to talk about next levels of the club. And if you're kind enough to make the same mistake twice, we'll gladly help you with that. So.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, no problem at all.
All right, cheers.
All right.
Well, have a great week. Good luck against. We'll hopefully have some good stuff to talk about after Saturday's game. Either way, join us Monday night for the Gooners versus Cancer prize drawings. Give us a like in the thumbs up button and all that other stuff that you're supposed to say at the end of a podcast. Come on, you Gooners.